All right, let's talk about accounting. I know, for a lot of people, that word brings up images of complicated math and spreadsheets. But what if I told you it's not really about math at all? It's about storytelling. You see, accounting is the language a business uses to tell us its story, everything from the little daily wins to its overall health. So, what kind of story are we talking about here? Just think about that for a second. A business is this whirlwind of activity, right? You've got sales, you're buying supplies, paying employees, maybe launching a new product. It's a lot. So, if it could talk, how would it even begin to explain all of that in a way that makes sense? Well, it would need a clear, consistent language. And you guessed it, that language is accounting. And to help us understand this language, we're going to go on a pretty simple four-step journey. First, we'll look at the initial spark. What even counts as a financial event? Then we'll see how it gets written down. After that, we'll figure out what it all means. And finally, we'll see how that whole story gets shared with the world. Ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. Every single financial story has to start somewhere, with one single moment. And that moment is all about this first step, identifying. So what exactly are we identifying? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. We're just spotting any activity where money changes hands. Think of it like this. It's the handshake between the business and its finances. It's that moment you can point to and say, yep, money was either spent or received right there. Let's make this real with the little bakery. When the owner goes out and buys a huge bag of flour from a supplier, that's a transaction. Money goes out and flour comes in. That's the spark. We've just identified an event that is financially important, and with that, the accounting process has officially kicked off. Okay, so we've spotted that spark, that transaction. We can't just let it disappear, right? We've got to write it down. And that brings us to our second step, recording. The best way to think about recording is like keeping a super detailed financial diary for the business. Every single transaction we identify, no matter how big or small, gets its own entry. This is all done in order, in books we call journals, which are like your daily diary pages. Then all those entries get sorted by type into ledgers, which kind of act like the diary's index. So all the sales are in one place, all the expenses in another. It creates this perfect official history of everything the company has done with its money. Let's go back to our bakery. A customer comes in, smells that amazing fresh bread, and buys a loaf of sourdough for $5. That sale gets recorded immediately. An entry goes into the sales journal noting the date, what was sold, and the $5 that came in. And just like that, that transaction is now a permanent part of the bakery's financial story. So now we've got this diary, and it's full of entries. A long list of purchases, sales, you name it. But here's the thing. A long list of facts isn't really a story, is it? To find the meaning, the plot, we have to move on to step 3, analyzing. Now, analysis. This is where the magic really happens. This is where we take all of that raw data we've recorded and turn it into something genuinely useful. We start to organize it, summarize it, look for patterns. This is how a pile of numbers becomes real insight, and it's what lets a business owner see the big picture and start making some really smart decisions. Through analysis, our bakery owner can finally answer the questions that really matter. You know, like, are we actually making any money? Or which day of the week is our busiest? Or are those new croissants we introduced actually profitable? Without this step, you're just flying blind, completely guessing. And you know what's cool? This analysis can start out really simple. Just look at this example. We take all the recorded sales for the week. Let's say we brought in $1,000 selling bread. Then we add up and subtract all our expenses, things like the flour, the yeast, paying our staff, and that comes to $600. The analysis is super straightforward. 1,000 minus 600 leaves us with a profit of $400. See that? In one easy step, we turned a whole list of transactions into one single powerful piece of information. All right, we've come a long way. We identified the events, we recorded them, and we analyzed them to find out what they mean. But there is one absolutely crucial step left, because a story is no good if you keep it to yourself. This brings us to the final step, communicating. Communication is all about formally presenting the company's financial story. And we do this using standardized reports that everyone understands, like the income statement, which tells you if you made a profit, and the balance sheet, which is like a snapshot of the company's financial health on a particular day. Now, these reports aren't just for the owner to look at. Big public companies, for example, bundle all this information up into an annual report. It's basically their big reveal to the world, saying, hey everyone, here's how we did last year, here's what we own, here's what we owe, and here's how much money we made. So who's the audience for this story? Well, it turns out a whole lot of people. You've got the management team, who needs it to make big decisions about the future. You've got investors, who are trying to decide if they should buy or sell stock. Creditors, like a bank, are reading it to see if the company is a good bet for a loan. And yeah, of course, the tax authorities need it. The fascinating part is they're all reading the same story, but looking for completely different things. So if you take one thing away, it should be this. We just went on a journey from one tiny transaction, buying a bag of flour, all the way to a comprehensive story that can literally shape a company's future. Accounting gives a business a voice. It turns all that chaotic daily activity into a clear, understandable, and universal story. And that brings us to the end. But here's a thought to leave you with. Every single company you deal with, from the coffee shop on your corner to the biggest tech company in the world, is constantly telling its financial story. So now that you know the basics of the language, what story do you think your favorite company is telling? Thanks for tuning in.